Those are all that I have to report under our activities. Intermediate.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Student representative report.
Nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. And superintendent report.
I have one item under the superintendent's report, and that's a transportation contract between the County of Clinton and Jersey Shore Area School District at first read. Dr. Dady, is there anything that you would like to specifically note on that contract?
This is just a standard thing that we have to do every now and then. It's just in case there's foster kids from Clinton County that attend our schools that may need to be transported either back to a home school or in Clinton County that Keystone and us have to make arrangements for. So we've had these before. It's just, it's very similar, and it's a pretty standard contract. And anytime our bus rates change, you'll see in the contract that it changes unless Clinton County feels it was an unreasonable change. But our rates only change when the CPI changes. So they probably would never see any change we put in there as being unreasonable.
Thank you. Notice also we have a conference attendees list and a field trip list. The field trip list in particular, do we have sufficient chaperones to supervise?
It's 10 to 1. All chaperone ratios are 10 to 1. 10 students to 1 chaperone. They're not approved if they do not have that ratio.
Okay, thank you. Courtesy of the floor on public agenda items. Had no one sign up for that this evening, so we'll move on to personnel. Personnel, we have items A through J. Any questions or comments on personnel? Hearing no comments, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Second round, any questions? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have nothing under curriculum
No,
instruction.
we do have something.
We do?
Yep,
Oh, there, we do.
thank you.
They're in the back.
We have a presentation.
I met them coming in.
There you go. Our reading specialists are here this evening to explain to us how our students K to 2 read to learn. Thank you so much.
We'll explain this to
Dr.
you.
Winters, did you say learn to read or read to learn? Or are we going to get both?
Just one, learn to read.
Learn to read,
Yep.
yes, it's printed
Learn
incorrectly
to
on
read,
the,
that was
learn to
right.
read.
Yeah, you're
Yep.
gonna get learn to
Okay.
read. And then what's here will be, we'll go over that in our presentation.
It's through third grade, it's through, K1, 2, 3, and then you go into the reading to learn phase.
Reading to learn, and it happens, somewhere between that second, third grade. Hopefully by the end of second grade, that is starting to happen.
Our goal,
Now, do some students not learn to read by third grade? Absolutely. Are there adults out there that don't know how to read? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
our goal is to have all of our third grade students be on grade level readers by third grade. That's our goal.
Absolutely.
So can you measure that? How do you know that a child is at where you want them to be? Is there-
Through those screeners that we gave to you, that Dibbles screener, that's kind of like our universal screener. If you think of it as a funnel, Dibbles is at the top. Every student at the beginning of the year, we just are wrapping that up right now. Every student has been given that test. From that test, we get different ranges from the results. And to simplify it, the data gives us colors even. Green pretty much means that student's ready to rock and roll. Yellow means that, hey, we might just have to slow down just a little bit. They're kind of sometimes those kids that sit on the fence and we have to just give them a little extra push. And then we have kids who are in the red. We call those our intensive or our at-risk kids. Those are the ones that we really want to stop, slow down, take a look at. And the screeners, the next screener that we gave you, the phonemic awareness screener and the phonics screener, we really use those heavily to screen those kids further, find out where their deficits are. We want to go on those steps that you saw, we want to go to their lowest deficit, and we want to target that deficit. So if it's a CVC word, which means a consonant, a vowel, and a consonant, it's a one-syllable word. If they're having trouble at that step, they are in a CVC group where they're just working on that targeted skill. Do we keep them there forever? No. Throughout, we will progress monitor them, and once we see them successful with that, we're certainly going to move them to the next step. So when you saw that circle of assess, group, and instruct, that's fluid, just like Mrs. Ranella said. It keeps going, and we have to continually regroup them and look at their individual needs and continually place them in groups that are going to focus and target on that need of that child.
So when they move into fourth grade, there may be some students that haven't met the standard,
Yes,
and they still need help.
we assess them also.
But so you then that reassess them while they're in fourth grade.
Yeah.
Is that reassessment? How does it go on to fifth grade? How far along does that reassessment go?
It can go on and on and on as long as it takes, we
However long it takes,
Yes, we
Merle.
have fourth graders and fifth graders that we have to assess further, and we have done that these past couple weeks. And we need to work with their teacher, and part of our job is to educate the teacher in the classroom, support them, help them, and figure this out so that the child is successful.
And you have to understand too, that oftentimes we have students that come to us from other districts and may have not been exposed to the system that we have in place. So it takes a while to get them to where they need to be. So they come to us with gaps, and it's more difficult to catch those students up, so to say.
How long has this system been in place that we have?
The multi-tiered
4
support
years.
system, I think 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, with the current programs that we have,
Right.
with the current screeners that we have. Every year, we learn more and more about it through book studies or through conferences that we might go to. Just talking with one another and just trial and error and trying to get better and better and better at what we do. And that one program, Foundations, that you saw that Ms. Johnson brought to the district, 3 years ago, it's amazing. And like was just said, kids that are coming from other districts that do not use some of these programs that we are afforded, you can really see the difference. You can
we're just starting this week with working with our groups, and it's really noticeable that the kids that have moved into the district pick it up right away, because they're a couple steps behind. Foundations really has helped our students.
So now their students are in 12th grade. Do you feel that the students that are in 12th grade and graduating have learned how to read?
Sure they have.
Hopefully, yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah.
But it
How
sounds
do you
like there's
pass
a
the
real effort
classes?
here. It's a real effort here to have our graduates, at least they'll take that with them forever, right?
Absolutely.
The talent or ability to read.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Yeah, if you don't have the ability to read, you don't have the ability to pass your classes to be able to graduate.
And basically, that learning to read phase is learning the phonemic awareness and the phonics so that you're able to decode, you're able to read fluently, so that you can free up that brain space for the comprehension part.
Does writing go with this? Is it learning to read and also learning to write? Is that-
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
learning to
Hand in hand.
speak?
Readers are writers and writers are readers.
Just to follow up on that, I was gonna ask you the same question related to this writing. My grandkids are absolutely pathetic when it comes to writing. My grandson, I can't understand the number that he brings home and writes on his homework paper. It's all over, but you say you have a writing program. I have a hard time
Foundation does.
believing it.
Yeah, Foundation, we do have a writing program.
Really?
Right, built right in, skyline, plane line, teaching them how to go right down, and we're in small group, you're instructing on where to put your pencil, how to hold your pencil.
Well, writing and handwriting.
Maybe he's been
are two
absent.
different things.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. And currently, we do have a committee that's been formed at the kindergarten to 5th grade level to look at the writing components that we currently have in the district, because I think that we would all agree that we can do a better job, and we have some areas to look at in the writing area. So that's why we formed the committee of teachers.
Good.
So you're a reading specialist, that's your job title?
Yes, sir.
What about the other teachers, the kindergarten teachers, first grade teachers, second grade teachers, third grade teachers? Do they help you, or do you work together? Or-
Yeah, we work very closely, so that grouping that we talked about during, say, a half-hour block, we break into groups and we target that individual need. So we group them by their targeted need on those stairs that you saw. And we would have a group, the teacher would have a group, we have aides that'll have a group. Some of them are enrichment type groups that are doing chapter books, sometimes in the first, second grade.
Well, and that's a good point, and I did want you to bring that out, bring it to Mr. Schweitzer's attention, that we do have students that can come into us already reading in first grade, and many that are very fluent in second grade, so,
We have kindergartners leaving kindergarten reading fluently.
right. So it all depends on the child, and that's why we personalize instruction.
What you said is very interesting, that you have a process where you can identify the student's needs.
Absolutely, it's all about their individual needs, and like I said, we continue to perfect this craft year after year after year, and just get better and better and better at it.
All right, thank you.
Just one question also, for those that do come in and they're already reading, how do you give them advanced projects?
Yes,
to
they
do?
have enrichment type groups. For example, at Avis in kindergarten, we have a group of kids that hit the ground running, and we all do this in all of our schools. We have an aide that actually takes them, and they're going to the library and they're picking out more advanced books, and they're helping them get started with our AR program right off the bat. Or we have first graders that are reading Magic Tree House books, and our aides do an amazing job, with those discussions and leading those discussions and that independent reading.
Can you explain AR program?
Okay, AR is an accelerated reader program, and what the kids do is, that was that STAR test that was mentioned up there. They take a STAR test, and the STAR test will put them at their just right level. So then the STAR program will recommend their grade equivalency range. That way they can go to the library and they can pick out books that are just right for them. And our librarians have done an amazing job making sure all our books are color coded on the spine. So if I tested at a blue dot, I would go to the library and I would look for books with the blue dot, something that interests me. Then I would read that book with family members, independently, and then I would go take a test on that book. It's mainly a comprehension test, and based on how well they do on the test, they're assigned points. The teacher assigns them so many points for the semester, and if they reach their goal, we have classroom rewards, we have school-wide rewards, and the kids, they really like it. Now, if a kid is struggling to meet their goal, then we certainly need to step back, we need to reassess again, see if that level really was just right for them. We might have to adjust those points, but it's really about making them successful and making them confident and making them want to read and to love reading.
So read to learn, that's another part of this.
But
Well,
That's another-
and that's going to be another presentation by the 3, 4, and 5
another
teachers,
thing.
yep.
Okay.
Yep, this is learning to read, which the reading specialists are very integral in allowing our students to be successful. So thank you, ladies, very much for everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's everything under curriculum. And as I had expressed to the board, each month we will have an item under curriculum at the second board meeting of each month.
Okay, we'll move on to building and grounds. We have items A through D. We have a motion to approve A through D.
So moved.
So moved.
Any questions on any of those or corrections?
I have a question. Did I read it right where, for the box office at the high school for the bleachers, was that just a price to actually see if it would, what capacity it would hold? It was not for an actual box office, when that was already like a prefab? Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, this is just the engineering services.
Okay, so my question is, why all of, like, I guess, why pick a time now to put a box office up there? That track has been there for many years, and I was just wondering, what is the urgency to have one in place?
From my perspective, it's not necessarily an urgency. It's one of those things that when those bleachers were put in, the braces were there to put a press box in, and it's like, as you said, that's been there for years, and to me, the thing has never been completed. This is to complete the project.
Do you have any idea how much a prefab would actually cost? I don't know if the committee even looked into the possibility of what would
I
it
wasn't at
cost.
that meeting. Did you have a kind of a ballpark that you were anticipating for the cost of the actual?
In the past, it's been around 15.
Excuse me?
In the past, it's been around 15, we were ballpark, was the ballpark. But the architect may tell us different, you know, who knows?
Yeah, I think within that they were supposed to provide us with some type of an estimate, at least of the cost.
And they were all also in-house, looking at the maintenance staff that actually do the construction rather than contracting it out. I know that's being considered.
Are you gonna be able to let you talk about the students doing that work?
No, I'm talking about the maintenance staff, physical plant maintenance staff.
You think they're gonna have time to do that? Larson Design will probably give you a bid cost, I guess, an estimate of the cost to do that. I would imagine that's part of the bid, or part of the cost,
Yeah,
services.
there's a statement in their proposal that kind of gives them some wiggle room to say that, we're gonna give you some estimates, but we're not liable to, for anything you would actually be able to get to do those services. But
So
if they say it's gonna cost us 10,000, but we can't get a contractor to do it for less than 15, then, 15 is what it is.
So I guess to follow up with Michelle here, if we go ahead and approve something like this, we more or less have to approve the construction of the press box. Because if you don't, you're more or less throwing money away, basically. So I assume that's gonna happen.
Well, I think this is kind of a necessary evil that you hear all the time about people. I think there was one just within the last couple of weeks, that there were people out on a balcony, and then all of a sudden the balcony caves in. So if we didn't do this, we can still decide not to do the full project if we want to, but this is the place you have to start to make sure that it's a safe structure.
Back to the necessity of it, I just know from being involved with soccer for a period of time, and I'm guessing track as well, but all the time that we were ever up there for games, the sound system runs out, or did run out of the concession stand at that point. And there were uncountable times that they could not even play the national anthem because of the way the sound system was inflecting things out of that concession stand. I think part of the goal of having a press box up there is to get the sound system to the point where you can actually conduct business there, and to do announcing from that press box for track and for soccer, I do believe. And also to just have a more organized way of running our scoreboard and all that other stuff, I think. So that's just been my observation up there. I don't know if that's
Well, and I also remember a conversation that, and I'm probably going to use the wrong word here, but the statistician or the individual who keeps the records for everything that's going on at a track and field event, right now they're on the same level as everything that's going on, and they don't have line of sight of everything. It's very difficult to keep accurate records when you're not sitting up in a press box being able to view everything that's going on. So I know that was brought to my attention as well.
And that's particularly important for soccer when you're watching live action, trying to keep track of who got the assist, who got the goal, who defended the shot. Probably much more than track even, because there's always people at the finish line to let you know who finished first or who jumped the farthest. But who made the goal sometimes is a little more complicated, and being up above that instead of being down at field level will be better for them.
I talked to the track and field coach, Mr. Fox, about it. He said, I've needed this for a long time, so he's supporting it 100%.
Just one last comment. Was any of this approved in the budget? We're looking at $25,000 here, which I don't know if any of it was pre-approved in last year's budget.
Items A, B, and D all will come from capital reserve. Item C is the only thing that would come out of the general fund, which was not in the budget. That's why it's coming before you this evening.
And this is a capital project. It's been out there now for 3 or 4 years.
So we're using the sale from the school of Nipponos to supplement this more or less. Mr. Schweitzer.
I don't know.
Don't stir him up.
Be careful, Harry.
No, we just have to watch. I have no problem with this, but we have to watch when some things are passed along to us where we can save some dollars too. Even if it's a $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 item, we have to look at that carefully too, rather than just saying, oh, it's only $10,000, just let it slide. We need to look at those things a little more carefully, maybe try and save those little things that have been mentioned in the past. That's all.
When we renovated the soccer, when we renovated the tennis courts, the middle school tennis courts, we did that in-house for about $15,000. But if we had to contract it out, it would have cost us over $100,000. So we saved some money there. And when we upgraded the track, I think, what was it, Ben? I think 135,000, and that could have gone for 4 and 5 or 600,000. So we saved a little money on those two projects.
So did I hear you then correctly, Mr. Switzer? You said you were looking, or at least possibly looking into, Mr. Wall and his team to actually possibly do the construction of putting it in place, so to speak?
That's right. Mr. Wall told me that his staff could do this.
Okay, so, but we don't have anybody here in-house qualified to determine whether or not that structure is gonna hold a certain amount of weight?
No, we need to bring in a structural engineer, somebody, the qualified structural engineer, take a look at it.
Well, when the bleachers were first put in place, was that not part of that original estimate? Or, I mean, can that information not be found anywhere?
I can't answer that.
I guess in essence, I find that just, if we could do a little bit of digging before we just spend $4,000 to find out how much it weighs basically and what kind of support we have a structure there to support it, it might be to our benefit to do so. I mean, those plans and that estimate of those bleachers when they were first put in has to be somewhere.
Part of this was to get an accurate assessment from a structural engineer, not someone in-house who was not qualified. So we had a structural engineer's opinion as far as whether that structure as it is would support the additional weight of the press box.
I realize that, but my question still lies on where are the original plans and the estimate that was, or whatever information it is that, we would need, I'm sure was given to us accordingly. Does anybody happen to know where you might retrieve that information from before I decide to cast a vote to spend $4,000 when we already have that information sitting somewhere? That's what I'm asking.
My conversation with Mr. Wall, he does not have that information. He does not have that information in his file.
And frankly, that information would be so old at this point, that track was put in, I think, around 2000, was it? So the design work prior to that, they may have changed codes 6 times between then and now, so you want to make sure you get the most recent specs.
And that's a liability issue again.
Right.
Right.
And Mr. Wall may have said, yes, I can build that, but really until this information comes back, he's gonna have to kind of do that with a kind of rule of thumb, but he may decide once he sees the specs come back from Larson that he really doesn't want to tackle that.
Right.
So that would be part B to the project. Any other questions on any of those items?
Yes, I have one other question on the fencing. Where exactly, it didn't show where the fencing was actually going around? Is it the playground behind the elementary school? Or is this at a different, like at JSE, or is this at a different elementary school?
The kindergarten playground, right?
No, the kindergarten playground's already fenced. Well, there's a safety concern right now of students that are attending JSC and keeping them confined to the playground.
That's all we can really say.
Well, the other situation too, we talked about that you're looking at safety for our students as well, from being able to leave the ground, as well as people just intermittently crossing, and they do that now. They intermittently cross at any time, so this would basically keep people from cutting through there during the time of when kids are out there.
I can speak to it, Mr. Anderson, if you want me to.
You go ahead.
Just please don't disclose anything regarding
Okay.
specifics of security.
Good evening. It has become an increased safety concern just because of some students and the risk of leaving the playground without an adult. And some of the students are of an age that it's not appropriate for them to be on the primary playground with small equipment. Also, it has been an increased concern, what Mrs. Thomas just brought up, of people crossing the playground quite a bit. We've had to make numerous calls to our SRO to ask him to please come and speak with community members who are on the playground during school hours or during after school hours when students are using the playground, and it's just would be much safer if we had it confined to school use only. Are there any other questions?
Well, you have 649 students.
I
The
think it
control
was
has a lot of students.
660, yes.
600 and what?
660 was the last count I had.
Okay, all right. So you have a lot of students there.
Yes.
And you have limited, in proportion to the number of students, you have a limited playground area, right? Well, I know that's right.
Yes, well, the area is not, but what was happening is if we had anybody that was a safety concern, as far as a risk of leaving the playground, they'd have to go to the primary playground where there was a fence. And it's not appropriate for all students, and it's being used quite a bit throughout the day. The more groups that we push to that playground, it makes it more crowded.
An area that they could be wandering off into is a swampy area
Swampy or a busy street.
or overgrown
Mhm.
with vegetation.
Thank you.
I just have a question. How can they, are they wandering off during the day, during their play period day? I don't understand that. Or is it after school when they're waiting for the bus? And if they are wandering off during the day, aren't they supervised somehow?
Can I just say, as a behavior specialist,
Explain it to me.
as a behavior specialist, there are certain children that struggle with sometimes not being able to hear what the directives are, or are very, very extremely spontaneous. It's not an issue of how closely they're being watched. It's the fact that sometimes these kids just they just go, they just respond, yeah, and that's the part that's scary. You could be standing right next to a child and they could just be taking off on you. If you've ever seen that happen at a mall or at a store or anywhere, this happens at school as well, regardless of how much supervision. It's just, you don't know sometimes. You could have a kid that you just really look at and say, well, they're doing fine, and all of a sudden they just take off and you have to go chasing. So I've had to chase high school students that way out of a building. So, you know, it's not just a young child problem, it's a problem across.
All right,
When
thank
you
you, Kelly.
chase, then you leave other students unsupervised.
Exactly.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
You opposed to all four, or just one specific one?
Two of them specifically.
Which ones?
The fencing, which is B, and D, the press box.
And that was just so Mr. Enders can get the tally correct and be reflected in that.
That's fine.
Okay, finance. We have items A through E. And for item D, we'll need a roll call vote. So I think we can probably accept the motion to approve all of those items, and then just do the roll call vote separately.
Motion to approve. What, A, B, and C?
Well, you're A motion for all of them, but we will vote separately on item D.
On item D, okay. So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion on items A through C and E at this point. Any questions?
I'm just curious, on item A, on the bids, what's the estimated cost for all those bids? Do you have that? What do you anticipate?
I believe last year our supply purchases from the bids came into about, I believe it was around $20,000.
What is KPN? Why are we bidding, why is KPN bidding these bids for us?
KPN is Keystone Purchasing Network. They're a cooperative that goes together and gathers all demands from multiple school districts across the state and tries to get the best price based on volume. So we're basically we're getting buying power by combining with other school districts across the Commonwealth.
So you think it's better to go this way than to bid individually?
Yes.
In-house?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions on A through C and E? Next, separately, questions on D.
I had a question on D, that's the total amount. I thought we were talking 4 million, and now I think we're up, it's up to 6 million, or that we're, is that correct? We're on bonds, this is on bonds, right?
That was your total that you're
Well,
refunding.
Mr. Jens Dongard, our bond counsel, was gracious to come tonight, and he said he was prepared to answer questions, and I believe he's prepared to answer that question.
Yes. Nice to see you all.
Good evening.
Again, you saw in the motion, the word parameters is used. And this is something, of course, this district has done it before, but it's something that's pretty much the norm rather than, and that is that the bond issue, whether refunding or even on capital projects, be approved on a not to exceed basis. When I say not to exceed, it's not to exceed the total principal amount, but also the not to exceed amount of principal that would be paid in each year. So bonds can be structured different ways. Suffice it to say that we really won't know what the principal amount of any particular year will be until they actually go out to bid and receive the bond bids. So what your financial advisor has done is actually put a cushion amount in each year, so to accommodate that. And therefore, when you add them up, you end up with a larger total. Suffice it to say that there won't be any more bonds issued than is necessary to retire 2013 bonds and pay the cost of issuance. So the most important number in the resolution is really what's going to drive it and dictate the net result is the minimum savings amount in here of $50,000 net of costs, and that is what's being approved. So that will what drive the bond issue. It's possible the new bond issue will be larger in principal amount. It's possible that the bond issue will be less than the current bond issue. And why would that be? Bonds can be sold at more than 100 cents on the dollar. So if the interest rate is a little higher than the market, then you're going to receive maybe 105%, 110%, which will reduce the size of the bond issue. So all these factors are going to come into play, and they give the various underwriters that flexibility to bid it as they deem based on what their buyers want. Some buyers want higher interest rates, but then they're willing to pay more than 100 cents on the dollar, and so on. So that's all that flexibility is built in here, resulting in that, what looks to be a larger number. This is delegating to the administration then the oversight of that process hereafter. This authorizes, gives them that authority then, so, provided that that minimum savings is achieved. Of course, we'll be seeking the maximum in savings, more than that if possible, but whatever the market gives us is what will be produced. We'll be using the integrity of the bidding process to see that that happens.
When you calculate the total savings, the bonds will be paid off in 10 years. Do you accumulate your savings over a 10-year period to come up with that 50,000 or more?
Well, I think you would have seen schedules when Jamie Doyle was here. Correct me if I'm wrong, then would that have been the savings in the earlier, pushed up into the earlier years?
Yeah, Mr. Schweitzer, Mrs. Doyle provided us this presentation on August the 26th.
Right.
And the savings is spread out across 10 years as you referenced, but the majority of the savings is in, the maximum savings is in the March 1st, 20 payment. So it'll be in this current fiscal year of $26,000 as she projected the presentation on the 26th of August.
All right, thank you.
So all else being equal, that would result in either a fund balance, an increase to fund balance, or available for like a one-time capital project.
Any other questions on B?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, looking for a voice vote on items A through C and E. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And a roll call for D, Mr. Enders.
Mr. Burgard,
Yes?
Mr. Frable,
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler,
Yes.
Mrs. Stover,
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson,
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Okay, we have kind of miscellaneous items A through E. Any motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion, questions, concerns?
On what is it? The first one, item A, we're being asked to vote, and we don't know who we're voting for. So why are we being asked to vote? It may not be a big thing.
Primarily because of our membership in PSBA. It's an obligation.
Yeah, okay.
Most of them are just one person, really. I mean, we got that from Ben.
Are any of these paid positions that we're voting on? Like the president?
I have no idea yet.
Not that we know of.
There's nothing that we're paying out of pocket, put it that way.
Nothing we're paying out of pocket.
Yeah, anything that they would be paid out of PSBA funds that we've already contributed to.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, anybody else have anything? I just, as we've expressed in the past, several of us have some concerns about taking the prom out of town. But as long as there's sufficient chaperones, we'll bring this forward. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have no old business identified. Is there anything, anybody want to bring anything up with the order? We'll move on to courtesy of the floor for general comment.
Okay.
Too many hits there, fullback.
I think there should be one for everybody every person around the table, yes. Bert Francis, 225 Locust Street. While we're passing those out, I would like to say that my teammates and I were very pleased and happy with the recommendation we got at Friday night's football game. And the new business manager on short notice, she pulled that off on short time and good time. So we appreciate that. And
Mr. Francis,
we'll be back in 10 years.
Mr. Francis, can I interrupt you? I wasn't there, so I think the credit should go where the credit is due. I think you misspoke and you meant the new athletic director. Because you referenced the new business manager. Unless I don't know something that the board is doing.
I didn't catch it. I recognized the wrong person.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that right? Who should I recognize?
The new athletic director, Mrs. Henry.
That's not what you said.
Yeah, Serena. Yeah.
Henry.
Okay, well, I'm having trouble with the Serena to begin with, so.
And credit to the football team.
Beg your pardon?
And credit to your football
Yeah, they had a
team.
great game, didn't they? Yes. So briefly, this memo is attached to the board solicitor administrator attached on 1 email request and 2 responses, A, B, and C. A, my question, B, board president responses, and C, I'm not sure what that is. For your review and hopefully a dialogue on them. I feel a response to be offensive, derogatory, ambiguous, and debatable. In no way an acceptable manner for the president of our board to conduct board matters. Not sure who Michelle is, and can only assume this will be board member Mrs. Stemler. After your review of the documents and the seriousness of content, I am asking that an immediate ethics inquiry be done. While this is being done, the board president should stand down and allow vice president to conduct meetings while the process is taking place. Respectfully, C. Bert Francis. I would like to take it back to sentence 3, where I state, for your review and hopefully a dialogue on them. I think a dialogue is going to be necessary. Then I'd like to refer you to the second page, and I have them broken down in item A, which is my questions to the president of the board, and B, his answers to my questions. But I want to go right to C, which I don't understand. I received this email from Mr. Allen, and it says, "Hi, Michelle." Well, I'm not Michelle, so I'm just assuming it was somebody hit the wrong key or sent that in the wrong direction. But I'm going to read it. As you know, Bert tends to try manipulating his representatives, so I wanted to be sure you had a copy of my response to his email last week. Most of his questions were related to negotiation, which are by definition confidential and exempt from sunshine. So I did not really provide him with much new information that had not already been disclosed. In particular, I think he is trying to back into the committee taking a vote, or if I had actually described how the flyer was authorized for distribution, so I intentionally did not go in that direction or characterize how many members were in favor of the flyer. These things are pretty serious. I know how this all occurred and happened, and I refer back to, in particular, I think he is trying to back into. I don't back into anything. I do my homework, and then I come forward and try to present myself as a dedicated member of the community and supporting this school district for years and years and years, contributing and so on and so forth. So I'm hoping this board takes immediate action and does the right thing. Thank you.
And Mr. Francis, you have my apologies.
That's not going to do it.
Anyone else?
Yes. Y'all don't know me. The only one that knows me here is Karen. But I'm retired, I've been retired for 5 years now.
You gotta identify yourself.
My name is Leroy Young. I live in Jersey Shore, 1044 Charles Street, Fifth Evanston. I've talked to a lot of people lately, and we're discussing this raise you guys all want for school board. Now, I'm listening here to all the things you want to put out for money and everything, which is, I understand that. I've been paying taxes in this district for 35, 40 years. But the raises, the school board offered you 2.3 and you want 7 million. That's ridiculous. You're asking me to pay 135% more in taxes to support you guys' raises when most of you guys are making more money than the average person is in the area.
Well, just one correction, sir, the school board itself doesn't make any money.
Well, the people that are asking for this money, okay? But anyways, I think it's a little high. I mean, they offered you 2.3. I think that's plenty. I don't think you should go above that. I think that even that, Clinton County put a freeze on their raises for 2 years. What's wrong with Jersey Shore? They're about one of the highest paid in the district. As far as that, they're pretty well up in their state pay too, so. I just don't understand why we have to pay people that can't afford it. Like me, I'm on a fixed income now. You're gonna raise my taxes, eventually I won't be able to afford to stay in the house. You try to put everybody out of business, by giving school boards more money all the time. Now, I understand we need education, and I can understand the things you were talking about, that you gotta fix, stuff like that. But there's gotta be a limit there. Everybody gotta sacrifice, not just the people in the area. I mean, you know, if they give you a little raise, I think that's plenty. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I think you gotta freeze it like Clinton County did for a couple of years, until people can, you know, help the community out. So, that's all I have to say, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Sherman, 220 Mount Pleasant Avenue, Region 2. Been reviewing the 3 proposals that were put forth at the July 10th meeting. One thing for certain about those proposals is it would add to the expenses to the taxpayers from $100,000 to about $300,000 a year. Proposal, most of them was based on moving the operations from this building to the middle school. Through a series of emails that were done. Seems like the architects behind that plan couldn't supply any definite figures on what it would cost to do fiber optics, total cost to move the operations to that middle school, and other things. But definitely wanted to go ahead and push ahead with reconfiguration. It seems to me like the attitude is as well, we'll try to figure out the rest of it as we go along. Mr. Allen, I would like to say this is not the first time I've seen one individual put a sustained attack against the school board president. And Mrs. Stemler, I give my hat off to you. You do care about the citizens. And Mr. Enders.
You should not be mentioning any of our names, period, John. That should not be happening. I don't care if you're congratulating or not congratulating. You're
You're interrupting me, Mrs. Thomas.
Mr. Sherman has the floor.
Well, I don't appreciate mentioning people.
Well,
I don't care good, bad, or indifferent.
And Mr. Enders, I do think you've done a good job. You're not the only one to have the figures questioned and integrity questioned. That happened to Adrian, your private person you stepped in his shoes up, okay? So it's been a past tactic and it will be continue to be that way.
anyone else? Okay. Hearing none other, we're closed courtesy of the floor. At this time, the board will retire to the executive session, and we will not conduct any additional business when we return.
What are you going to discuss?